Me'ezras Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Bava Metzia, daf Kuf Yud Tes, the very last daf from Masechta Bava Metzia, and we will begin from the Mishnah on daf Kuf Yud Ches 118b on the Mishnah. Okay, so the Mishnah says, Hamoitzi Zevel Rishus Rabim, someone who deposits his manure in the Rishus Rabim. And the reason why he's depositing it, because in the Rishus Rabim, in the public domain, because he wants to remove it to his field. So the Mishnah tells you that you can't leave it there for any period of time. As soon as Moitzi, the guy that brings it out of his house or the barn, it puts it out into the Rishus Rabim. So it's now an obstruction in the Rishus Rabim. People can't walk. So Mazabel, right away, the person in charge of fertilizing the field should remove the fertilizer that you put into the Rishus Rabim. The Mishnah does not say that you can't put it there, because you need to be able to be able to use the Rishus Rabim, from time to time, because that's the way things are transported, and that's the way construction sites go. Like here, the Mishnah continues. The Mishnah is talking about if you're in a construction site. So, Ein Sharon Tit Rishus Rabim. You're now allowed to soak, let's call that cement in the Rishus Rabim, because that takes a long time to mix it with water and then create the cement in the Rishus Rabim, because again, you're blocking traffic in the Rishus Rabim. The Ein Loivnin Lebenim. You're not allowed to make bricks. If you look on YouTube, you can find how the ancient way they made bricks. You leave it out in a certain formation in the sun, and helping it, and it dries, and it becomes special types of bricks. So you can't make bricks in the Rishus Rabim. Obviously, even if you plan on building something nice, but you're blocking the Rishus Rabim. Aval goivlin tit Rishus Rabim. You're allowed to temporarily need cement in the Rishus Rabim if you're going to use it right away to build. To use it right away in a construction, but not to make bricks. Again, the brick making, even if you're gonna make bricks right away from this tit, could be you're gonna leave it there in the Rishus Rabim a little bit longer. So therefore, we can't allow you to use the Rishus Rabim that way. So the Mishnah says, let's say you're building a house. Now you have bricks. If you're building in the Rishus Rabim, maybe the guy that brings the stones, he should bring it right away. And right away, the guy should remove it from the Rishus Rabim and start building the house. Nevertheless, during the time that we allow you to use the Rishus Rabim to deposit your construction material, albeit for a short period of time, in Hizik, if something happens to somebody, if somebody get damaged, then you have to pay what you damage. So you can use this Rishus Rabim temporarily to block off traffic, to deposit your building material. Nevertheless, if somebody trips over that building material, so then you're chayiv, you're held liable. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says you're not held liable. And in fact, you're not held liable. And af b'sakin hu es malachta lifnei shleishim yom. So Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is very pro construction. And he says that you're allowed to place your items in the Rishus Rabim for a period of 30 days, and you're not liable if anything happens, because the Rishus, that's the way you can't. It's very hard to just bring the construction material and right then and there build, and then you bring a little bit. You have to the trucks are bringing a lot at a time, so you're allowed to keep 30 days worth of construction material. And if somebody tripped over that you're not held accountable. So the Gemara says, the Gemara begins. The Gemara says, "Lema masnisin deloik Rabbi Yehuda." Let us say that our Mishnah is not aligned with Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, we just learned in our Mishnah that as soon as you bring manure or fertilizer into the Rishus Rabim, so then you have to remove it right away. But look what Rabbi Yehuda says. If it's the period of time during the summertime, I guess, when you bringing out the manure into the street, a person could bring his manure, his fertilizer into the Rishus Rabim, and I guess they wanted people to trample over it so it becomes harder and it becomes more usable as far as fertilizer. And he could pile it up there and continue to remove it and bring it back. Kol shloshim yom, for a period of 30 days. Kidei she'ei nishaf b'ragli odom b'ragli behema, so it will be trampled on by the feet of a person and the feet of an animal. Shalmanas kain hilchel Yehoshua Yisrael as haaretz, because on this condition, that was Yeshua gave the Jewish people Eretz Yisrael, so that they'll be fair to each other and understanding of each other's needs. And it's necessary at times for a person to bring his manure into the Rishus Harabim, his fertilizer into Rishus Harabim, and therefore you have a permission to even leave it there for 30 days. So the Gemara wants to say that our Mishnah does not go like Rabbi Yehuda, because our Mishnah says as soon as you bring the manure, the fertilizer into the Rishus Harabim, you have to right away bring it into your field to fertilize it. Answers the Gemara, Afilatayim Rabbi Yehuda. You can say our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, Shem Hizek Chayv L'Shalom. Rabbi Yehuda would agree that if it did damage, you're chayv to pay. In other words, our Mishnah is giving you good advice. Try to remove the manure right away, because if you're going to leave it there for 30 days, like Rabbi Yehuda said, and Rabbi Yehuda agrees to that, then if somebody would slip on that manure, you'll be held liable. So our Mishnah is just giving you good advice to remove it right away. But technically, our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yehuda that you can leave it there for 30 days. But this is based on the assumption that Rabbi Yehuda holds that if someone would slip on that manure, you're held accountable. So the Gemara challenges that. But Tanan, we learned it in Baisa, Moed Rabbi Yehuda b'ner Chanukah shu patum neisha oisa b'rshus. Rabbi Yehuda would agree that with Ner Chanukah, if you're allowed to bring the Ner Chanukah into the street, right, for pursuing Nisa, and if a fire caught on the flax that was on top of an animal, you're not held accountable because you had permission to bring in the Rishus Harabim. So we see that once you're allowed to bring something into Rishus Harabim, you're not held liable. So how could you say that our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shem Hizek Chayv L'Shalom, Rabbi Yehuda would hold you're held accountable and you're obligated to pay if damage happens. And this Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda says you're potter, you wouldn't be held liable if anything happens. My love, Rishus Bezdin, that what makes you potter is because you have the permission of Bezdin, that's why you're not held liable. So the Gemara answers, Loi, the Rishus Mitzvah. Ner Chanukah is a one-time thing, so because the mitzvah requires you to bring it into the Rishus Harabim for Pesumei Nisa, so then you're not held liable. But if you're just doing your manure, there is no mitzvah, so even Rabbi Yehuda would hold that in Hizek Chayv L'Shalom. Because even though Bezdin gives you permission to bring it into the street, but yet you'll still be held accountable if some damage happened. So the Gemara says, Vatanya, we learned in a Braisa, Kol Elu Sha'amru Mutaran L'Kalka B'Rishus Harabim Im Hizek Chayv L'Shalom, Rabbi Yehuda Pata. Here, the Braisa clearly says that Rabbi Yehuda, if the Chazal give you permission to put something into the Rishus Harabim, the Tanakama holds that if it did damage, you have to pay. Rabbi Yehuda holds you're not held liable to pay. So it can't be that our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, because you're telling me that the only way our Mishnah could go according to Rabbi Yehuda is if the Tanakama holds that im Hizek Chayv L'Shalom, and Rabbi Yehuda himself holds that you're not held accountable. Our Mishnah does not go according to Rabbi Yehuda, and our Mishnah holds not like Rabbi Yehuda that you have a 30-day grace period. In fact, our Mishnah holds that, and perhaps our Mishnah would agree to Rabbi Yehuda that during the time there's a special season where you can bring your manure into the street. You have a 30-day period, but our Mishnah probably is talking about a time when it's not this man to bring the manure into the street. So if it's not you don't have the Rishus Bezdin to do it, so then you have to remove it right away. And if you don't remove it right away, you're held liable. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Abaye said, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon Kula Svirulhu, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rabbi Shimon all hold, Kol Makom, and that's Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Kol Makom Shenasnu by Chacham Rishus, v'Hizik Potter. If a Chacham give you permission to do something, and you did it, and it did damage, you're not held liable. Rabbi Yehuda Hadaman. Rabbi Yehuda is of that opinion, and this was the source is what we just said. Rabbi Yehuda says that if Chachamim give you permission to bring manure into the street for 30 days, so during that period of time, if someone slipped on that manure and that fertilizer, you're not held accountable for damages. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, the Tanam we learned in a Tanam we learned in a Mishnah. Af b'sakin hu es malachta lifnei shleish yomim. That's Rab Shimon of our Mishnah, which says that you're allowed to bring building material into the construction site for a period of 30 days. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in our Mishnah holds that during that period, if something would happen, something trips over your construction material, you're not held liable. So that's Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's shita. Rabbi Shimon, here's also of an opinion. Here he's talking about you followed the building code. The building code says you have to do something. So and something happens, are you held liable? Tanam we learned in the Mishnah. If you're putting an oven on the second floor, you're a second floor holding a condominium on the second floor. You should have like plaster 3 tvachim high if you're going to put an oven there. Uvakira, if you're going to put a mini oven there, tefach, then you have to have a thickness of a tefach. That's the building code. But hizik, if you follow the building code, hizik, and the fire broke out, mishalim asher hizik, you have to pay what you did damage. Reb Shimon says, "Lo amru kol shiurim halalu el shem hizik potem elishalim." All these shiurim were given in order that if you followed the building code, then if the damage, you're potter from paying. So you see from here, Reb Shimon ben Yochai, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reb Yehuda all hold that if you have permission to do something and you did it according to the way the Chachamim said you should do it, you're not going to be held liable if it did damage. Tana Rabbanan. Now the Gemara is talking about of suing people. Hachatzav shemos l'satas hasatas chayev. So we're talking about over here that once the stone cutter has delivered the stone to the chiseler, from that point on, the chiseler is liable for any damage. Once the chiseler leaves it to the guy who's the chamar, the donkey driver, bringing the from the quarry to the building site, a chamar chai. If something happens, the chamar takes responsibility. A chamar shemos lekatavs, the truck driver gives it over to the person on the building site to bring it to the construction site. A katav chai, the guy that's schlepping it from the chamar to the construction site, he's chai. A katav, the one who's shouldering it, shemos lebenai, gives it to the bricklayer, a benai chai. So what happens over here is at the end, once the builder has delivered to the master builder who places and straightens the stones on the structure, so then he is liable. And if he placed the row upon the row of demos of stones, and the stone fell and caused down, they all liable to pay. What's happening is like this: if someone quarried a stone and it got from the mountain all the way to the construction site, and it fell off the building and did damage, so who do you sue? You can sue everybody over here: the chatzav, the chamar, everybody who brought the stone from the quarry all the way to the building site. You can sue everybody. Kulam chayiv and shalom. Says the Gemara Batanya, we learned in the Brisa, achru chayim kulam peturim. You could only serve the guy, the bricklayer, the one who straightened it into the building, but the rest are not held accountable. So how do you square this Brisa, the Tana Rabbanim, with this Brisa who says achru chayim, and this Brisa says kulam chayavim? Answers Gemara lekasha, it's not difficult. Kam beschiris, kam bekablonus. If you hired each one individually, so then once the guy finished his job, he's not held liable anymore. But kablonis, if they've all signed on one document as a construction crew, so then they're all still part of that one contract. Therefore, if something happens, you can sue all of them because they're all considered like one. So the Mishnah, Shtei Ginas, here's the picture. I draw a picture. This is a simple picture. Guy owns the top field, and then another guy owns the bottom field, and let's say some onions or garlic grew out from the slope in between the top field to the bottom field. So the question is, who does this piece of garlic belong to? That's the Mishnah. Shtei Ginas zu al gavzu. You have two gardens, one on top of the other. Vayarik b'ntayim, and there's, let's say, a vegetable growing out from the slope between the two fields. They're slanting down, as you can see. I'm just going to show you the picture again, slanting down from the top field to the bottom field. So the question is, who does that belong to? Meir says Shel Elyon, that belongs to the upper field. Rabbi Yehuda says Shel Tachton, it belongs to the guy in the bottom field. Now, you can see right away why it belongs to the top field, because it's nurturing, it's getting its nourishment from the top field. If the top guy decides to dig down and take away his soil, so you wouldn't have a vegetable there. So that vegetable definitely belongs to the guy in the top garden. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he would fill up his bottom field all the way to the yerek, because the yerek is in his ear space. You can see the roots are in the top guy's field, but the leaves are in the bottom guy's ear space. So if he would fill up all his ear space, you wouldn't have a way to grow that vegetable. So it should go ein kan yerek. So it really should go to the bottom guy. Rab Meir said, since they both can stop each other, they both have since you don't know, I mean, each one could, prevent the vegetable from growing. We got to see where the source of the vegetable is. The vegetable lives from the soil, so therefore the soil belongs to the top garden. Therefore, it belongs to the top garden. Rab Shimon ben Yochai makes it like a compromise. All the vegetables that if the guy was standing on the top of the mountain, right, the top of his garden, and he was able to reach down without difficulty and pull up the vegetable, then it belongs to him. But if it's a little bit lower than that, and it would be very difficult for him to get it, and he would have to ask permission from the bottom guy to go into the field, so then it really belongs to the bottom guy. So that's Rab Shimon ben Yochai's compromise. Amar Rava says, everybody doesn't argue the roots belong to the guy in the top field. When are they arguing regarding the branches? Rab Meir holds you put the branches after the source, and therefore you put the branch after the source, and the source belongs to the top guy, so the leaf and whatever is protruding also belongs to the top guy. Rabbi Yehuda says, you don't put the branches towards where the source is. The roots, you can say the branches, the vegetable itself belongs to the bottom guy, and the root belongs to the top guy. The Tanya we learned to the Brisa, Hayotzim min agezim min ashroshim, harei shabal karka, divrei Meir, Rabbi Yehuda min agezim shabal ilim min ashroshim shabal karka. If a new tree grows out of the geza, means the trunk, or from the roots, harei eli shabal karka, it belongs to the guy who owns the field, divrei Meir. If it goes from the trunk of the tree, so then Shabal Ilim, it goes the owner of that new tree, the owner of the tree that has the growth belongs to him. Minash Russian, but if the growth comes from the roots, then it belongs Shabal Karka. Utnan, we go to Kufyu Testament Aleph. Utnan Gabil Arla. We learned the same idea by Arla. Kehaigavna. Listen to this case. Elin hayotzim and agezim nashroshin chayev ba'arla. Let's say you have an old tree, and now a new tree is protruding from the trunk and from the roots of that old tree. So is it a new tree or an old tree? So Rab Meir says it's chayev ba'arla. We always look at it that as a brand new tree, and and the arla halachas apply to it. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says no. You can split it. Mina geza, if the new tree is growing from the stump of the old tree, then it's potter because it's part of the old tree. Minash Roshim, if it's growing from the roots of the old tree, then chayev, we consider it's chayev in arla. Says the Gemara, why do you have to tell me this machlokes by both situations? When it comes to money, who the tree belongs to, and when it comes to the concept of arla, you say the same argument between Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda. How do you view it? If you would say the story by the first case, let's say in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we can say, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda says you can give it to the bottom guy. Why? It's money, and so we'll go lenient and say, okay, it belongs to the bottom guy. Aval gabe arla, the isura, but when it comes to arla, we would rather go strict, because arla is a big avera if you eat the fruits prior to the 3rd year. So we'll call it a new tree just so that you don't be over the Isra of Arla. Ema, I would say, maybe Rabbi Huda would agree to Rabbi Meir with regards to Arla, that if you have a tree growing out from a Gezem and a Shroshim, he would agree to Rabbi Meir that's Chai Ba'arla. So Kamash Malan, so that's why Rehuda says, no, Min Gezem, if it's growing out of the trunk of the tree, it's going to be Potter. If it would just say this case by Arla, only in this case, Rabbi Meir was Machmir, maybe by Arla. When it comes to Dinim Amanus, Rabbi Huda, maybe he would agree to Rabbi Huda that you can go lenient. Sricha, that's why you need both situations, both arguments regarding Arla and regarding Dinim Amanus. Now, next Gemara, Rab Shimon, Kol Shalian Yochel Livshe. We said that if the top guy can reach and pull the vegetable to him, then it belongs to the top guy. That was Rab Shimon ben Yochai's like compromise. Says the Gemara, Amri Debei Rabbi Yoni v'Vachlo Yanis. You shouldn't have to work so hard to get it. It should be an easy way to schlep it up back to you. That's what Rabbi Yanai said. Okay, but if it's difficult, then we give it to the bottom guy. Boyer Rav Onam v'Teimer Rav Yirmiyah. He asked the question: if someone can bend over and reach the branches, but he can't reach the root, because let's say the root is like on a slant, like if the root is over here and the leaf is over here, so you can reach the leaf, but he can't reach the root. Or the opposite case, if it's going the other direction, if it's going in the other Megillah Ikra, you can reach the root. Ve'en Megillah Noifa, and you can't reach the leaf itself, the branch. What would Reb Shimon hold in that case? Teku, this is difficult. We don't have an answer for that. But nevertheless, Reb Shimon ben Yochai made a nice compromise. He didn't say that everything belongs to the top guy, and he didn't say that everything belongs to the bottom guy. He says that if the top guy, whatever the top guy can reach with ease, belongs to him, and the rest belong to the bottom guy. Because probably he's moichelit. He says, you know what, I wouldn't want to go down to the bottom field to start collecting my stuff, so I'll let the bottom guy keep it. They're dealing with mamish little vegetables over here, and we have to decide who's it belong to. So Ephraim the Sofer, he was a scribe, Talmidei Shlokish, Mishum Rab Shlokish. He was a student of Rab Shlokish, and he said, in the name of Rab Shlokish, Halacha Rab Shimon. The halacha is like Rab Shimon ben Yochai. Amru Kamei the Shvar Malko. They said it in front of the Persian king. The Persian king apparently was a lawyer by trade, and he loved to hear law. And with this case, he took an interest in Jewish law, and he liked Rab Shimon ben Yochai's opinion. Amalahu, he said to Ephraim Safra, he said to the people that said it that in the name of Rish Lakish, Pirium Nimtai Rab Shimon. Let's give Rab Shimon has a lot of chain. In other words, his opinion is very favorable. That's what he's saying. His opinion is very, very favorable over here. So we like his opinion over here. Hadun Allah Chabayis Valiyah, Uslika Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Chabayis Valiyah, Uslika Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Chabayis Valiyah, Uslika Allah Masechta B'Metzia. With Hashem's help, we please say the following paragraph. Hadun Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Dait Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Dait Allah Snachim Masechta B'Metzia. Dait was not Leish Malmadain. Loi B'Halmados. Hadun Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Dait Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Snachim Masechta B'Metzia. Snachim No. Loi B'Halmaday. Loi B'Halmaday. Also, one more time. Hadun Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Hadun Allah Dait Allah Masechta B'Metzia. Dait Allah Snachim Masechta B'Metzia. Snachim this sister Nashima Nom. Loi B'Halmaday. Loi B'Halmaday. Okay, Bez Hashem will finish. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll finish. We'll start Masechta B'Metzia tomorrow night. Okay.
Much more.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a Siyum tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Have us all in mind.
Yes.
Always, you guys always do.
Thank you.
Okay. Basra tomorrow. Bez Hashem.
Amen.
Okay. Take care. Bye.